So, September 30th, 2020, my name is Ben Markins, president of the Paperboard Packaging Council. I'm pleased to welcome you to a webinar about COVID-19 trends from our partners at RISI, who have done all of the work, and I will say without any input from us here at PPC, and for antitrust purposes, that's critically important. So next slide, please. And you can actually go to the second one, Kira, the one after that, which is the antitrust slide. Thank you. So this is a topic when we get the Q&A. Nothing that Abdulla, our speaker, says can be antitrusty because he is he's an economist and he knows not to say certain things, but his opinions about the economic forecast are his forecast. And so in and of itself, that's legal for him to tell us his forecast. When we switch to Q&A, it's critically important that, next slide please, that you avoid, our members avoid sentences like, I'm considering adding this, or my opinion is the market will do this, rise, fall, it doesn't matter. Anything that would be any indication about what you're doing in your business, or worst, what we should do as an industry. So please be careful when you ask Q&A. Thank you. Next slide, please. I want to just thank our sponsors, as always, Koning & Bauer, our platinum sponsor, our virtual events and meeting sponsors, Clearwater, Komori, Heidelberg, and Bobst, and our virtual technology sponsors, Billerud, Korsnäs, and Leary. Next slide. We still are keeping up to date our coronavirus page, paperbox.org/coronavirus, so there's less and less coming out, but it's still active. Next slide, please. I'm really excited about fall meeting, which is October 14 to 16, paperbox.org/fall. I'm very excited about what we're calling the launch party or kickoff on October the 8th, which is almost a week ahead of time. The virtual trade show starts at 2. The meeting itself starts at 3. And then from 4 to 5, we're very excited that the chef from the hotel we would have been at this year and will be at 53 weeks later, the Savannah Weston, is going to teach us how to cook his signature dish. And Abdullah will invite you. We're going to send out a shopping list this week for shrimp and grits. And then there's going to be a live cooking show with Q&A. It ought to be both fun and an ability for you to get into the platform called Pathable and find your way around, make sure your profile works. And then we really have a great meeting for you, October 14 to 16. Principal members, one price. You can bring as many folks as you want. There's going to be 6 hours of a virtual trade show, which we think you ought to plan to attend. And then we'll have committee meetings, which we'll let you know about. But we'd love for you to participate. Next, please. We're doing our first virtual boot camp, November 16th. There'll be 4 days, 3 hours each, and then office hours on Friday. So Monday through Thursday for 3 hours at 1 p.m. And then on Friday, what Kate calls it, office hours, where I'll be answering any questions that you have. And then a redo of our friend, the Nerdy Best Friend, on December the 9th. You can go, I think 2 slides. You can give, we already talked about fall meeting. So, so questions, you've all, I think, been on this so far. You have to raise your hand. There's a button at the bottom of your screen. Please do. Beth will acknowledge you and tell you you're live, but you'll still have to unmute yourself even after that. And if you're on the phone, dial, to raise your hand, dial *9, and to unmute yourself, *6. So I think that is all of the stuff that I have to do. Next slide, please. So I'm pleased to introduce our friend, our partner, Abdulla Zaid, who's an economist for paper packaging and covers North American boxboard markets, oversees the Middle Eastern and African paper packaging market forecast as well. He's the lead author, he's the leading co-author, pardon me, of our trends reports, which there'll be 2 of this year. The one which we're talking about now, we're calling the COVID report. And before year end, the full trends report. And so we're really excited to have 2 trends in 1 year. Abdullah also does the World Boxboard Study for the Americas, and the Middle East and North Africa Paper Packaging Outlook, and is a contributor to the World Containerboard Forecast. My goodness, he's a very busy guy with numbers. And so with no more fanfare, I'd like to welcome and introduce you to our friend Abdullah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Abdulla Zaid, economist at Fastmarkets RISI, covering the North American boxboard markets. This presentation will cover the pandemic implications in the folding carton board markets. This is the antitrust compliance page. The forecast and outlook analyses contained in the report are prepared solely and exclusively by Fastmarkets RISI without input from Paperboard Packaging Council or its members. Starting off with the overall outlook or the macroeconomic outlook, we have a global economy facing a recession. However, on the boxboard demand, we have a flat performance with strong growth potentials. However, demand performance is different from one end use to another, from one grade to another. Non-durables production is an important piece in our forecast models. In 2020, we have non-durables production declining at 5.4%, which is better performance, relatively speaking, compared to the industrial production, which declined by 10%. On the boxboard front, we have 0.4% decline in boxboard demand. However, the next 4 years will see a 2% increase annually on average between 2021 until 2024. Again, there are different performance trends from one market to another. For example, food service saw serious challenges, whereas strong performance was seen in dry foods, soaps, and detergents, for example. North American boxboard market in our models are divided into 3 main end uses. 54% goes to folding carton board, and 19% goes to liquid packaging, cups, plates, and food service, and the remaining 27% goes to other, which includes gypsum, tubes, cans, drums, and other uses. In this presentation, we will focus on the 54% or the folding carton board segment. This segment is divided into 3 portions. First one is bleached, which is about 25%. This grade is the one that is competing directly with the European FBB and the Asian Ivory Board. And then we have 41% goes to recycled, which includes coated recycled board and coated multiplies. And this also in our models is including the coated multiplies, which also includes FBB. The third portion, 34%, goes to unbleached, which is mainly used in beverage carrier applications and folding cartons. Going into the 3 segments, we start with the bleached board or the SBS. The environmental piece has been an important part of the story of SBS growth story in the past few years. Lots of food service places have been shifting out of foam cups or foam boxes or plastic packaging into paper-based products. This has been driving some demand into the SBS board in the past few years, and even more in the next couple of years. Looking at the trend, we see in 2020 SBS is expected to finish the year at 6% growth, and then after that is going to stabilize nearly at a flat rate, 0.1% annually in the next 4 years. Now we have good performance. We have a lot of challenges, first of all, in the food service and takeout, but then we have good performance, good demand, good spending in the processed food. War on plastic, environmental awareness has gained SBS some demand as well. FBB remains a challenge for SBS. Now, when we talk about FBB and SBS, trying to compare between what's happening in those 2 grades, as I said, FBB in our model is living in the CRB portion. So if we try to take it out of there, about 95% of CRB imports is going to be multiplies. Out of that 95%, 75% is going to be FBB on average. So FBB in 2020 and SBS have recorded very similar growth trends, 6% versus 8%. 8% for FBB, 6% for SBS. Going forward, while SBS is expected to have a flat growth rate, FBB is expected to have a 5% growth every year. Shifting into the CRB market, the recycled boxboard market, consumer spending behavior and e-commerce have shaped this market lately. Now we have liquid soaps, we have liquid detergents, both are packaged with plastic containers, shifting out of carton-intensive uses. We also have corrugated boxes in e-commerce. With e-commerce taking more share, we are expecting that products will be packaged differently, just to save on the paperboard used in e-commerce. Instead of having corrugated box inside it, folding carton or recycled folding carton could be even skipped altogether into the corrugated inside it, the package, plastic bag, or even directly inside the corrugated box. So those are posing tremendous risk for CRB market growth potentials. Looking at the trend, 2020 saw nearly flat growth, about 0.3%. And then when we look at the red line and the black line, red line is the consumer spending in processed food, and the black line is industrial production of food. We understand that the main one piece to explain this divergence in those two lines in 2020 is the weakness of the exports market for processed food. With less exports of processed food, we have less shipments of folding carton. But going forward, we're expecting weakness in the US dollar, which will place upward pressure on demand and exports of processed food, which means further growth in the the folding carton or in the folding carton board markets by 2.3% annually in the next 4 years. Looking at the unbleached side of the story, main uses of that board is going to be beverage carrier and folding carton. Environment has been an important piece of the story with the brown image of this board. Looking at the trends, 2020, we saw 2.9% growth, or we are expecting to see end of year 2.9% growth in CUK. With increasing beverage production over the forecast, we're expecting CUK or coated and bleached board to continue growth over the forecast at 2.2% annually. Now taking a deep dive into the end-use markets, we look at folding carton versus folding carton board. Folding carton is in 2020 is expected to finish the year at 4% growth. Now this is huge compared to the past 10 years, let's say, or even the years after the recession, 2008, 2009 recession. Trends has been completely flat to declining, even sometimes declining to flat. But the 2020 has completely reversed this trend and increased shipments, or is expected to finish the shipments to finish the year at 4% increase in shipments. Folding carton board also recorded is expected to finish the year at 2.5% growth. Both are expected to continue growth. Folding carton board at 1.7%, and then folding carton shipments at 1.3% annually in the next 4 years. Looking at the growth outlook for let's say 6 end-use markets covered in this report, we have the horizontal line is going to be the COVID-19 demand shock, and the vertical line is going to be the long-term growth outlook, which includes the COVID-19 shock, demand correction, and then the long-term trend. So looking at the horizontal line first, we have left and the right. On the left is going to be the negative, and that is the food service, more than 11% decline in that grade in shipments in 2020. On the right, we have all sort of positive performances, different performances ranging between 4% all the way to north of 9%. We will go through each end-use market in the next slides. But looking at the long term as well, we have up and down. On the positive side, upward, we have food service growing at expected to grow at 1.9%. That's the folding carton shipments to that end use is expected to grow at 1.5% in the long run. This is much faster than other products or than other end use markets. For example, we have cereal and soaps and detergents. Those are completely flat. You're talking about 0.1, 0.2% growth. Lots of headwinds coming in those areas. We will talk about them in the relevant slides. Looking at the beverage first, we have spending, off-premise spending expected to finish the year at 5.3%. Shipments up 6.5%. So this is a huge demand growth. But looking forward, this is going to stabilize and balance out. So the upside risk here is going to be more and further uses in beverage packaging, whereas we have headwinds and possible challenges coming from the possible emergence of CUK imports. Looking into cereals and mill grains, again, extraordinary performance in terms of spending, 7.8% in 2020. Shipments up 7.9% 2020 as well. However, going forward is going to be it was going to go back to the long-term trend, and the long-term trend can be seen in the top left chart. In the purple line, that's the spending. White line, that's the folding carton shipments. We see that the spending in cereals and mill grains has been increasing. However, folding carton has been flat to declining. One explanation to this trend is that other packaging products are coming online to package cereals. Although cereal spending is increasing, the shipment has not been increasing as much, or folding carton shipments has not been increasing as much. Future challenges for this end-use market is going to be plastic packaging. That's number one. And then we have other breakfast options. Again, cereal has been a great product for the pandemic. Expiration dates tend to be further down the road compared, let's say, to other breakfast options like Greek yogurts. Those expire much sooner than cereals. So this becomes, but going down, let's say, going next few years, when we expect things to open up even more, we're expecting shift to be out of cereal into other products as well, into other breakfast options, and even food service breakfast as well. Going down into frozen food now, again, restocking appears here, spending 6.7%, shipments 4.2%, extraordinary performance. We tend to look at frozen food as a substitute to food service, and it's a convenient option for at-home demand. However, again, going forward in the next few years, we see challenges, especially if the labor market remains weak. Another challenge is going to be from the European FBB imports coming into the US. So with these, we see shipments in the next 4 years remaining effectively flat, down 0.1% every year. At the retail carryout, this is the segment that was heavily impacted by the pandemic. Spending is down at 11.9%. Shipment also is down at 11.7%. A lot of challenges facing this grade, but going forward, upside risk here is the economic recovery and also to the takeout demand gaining more traction. Plastic substitution, we're expecting food services to continue that substitution, of course, going to be in the long run. So we are expecting shipments rebound to be 5.4% annually in the next 4 years. But again, some challenges happening here is going to be if we have further economic downturns, weaker labor markets, and further competition from the European FBB. Pharmaceuticals, this grade has been stable, 2.8% in 2020 in terms of spending, 4.9% in terms of shipments, folding carton shipments. Again, the chart on the top left side will capture the dynamic quite clearly. We have spending acceleration all the way in the past 10, 15 years, but folding carton shipments have been flat to declining. One main reason here is the increased prescription drug imports. So that's going to be added into spending, but it's not going to contribute to the shipments. Going forward, we see shipments remaining effectively flat as well, with the upside risk: aging baby boomers, new drug development, rising healthcare coverage. Challenges will come from the soaring prescription drugs costs in the US, which increases the trade deficit of pharmaceuticals, which negatively impacts folding carton shipments. Also, again, FBB is a potential risk here as well. FBB tends to be a risk in the areas that heavily use coated bleach board. Finally, we are at the soap and detergents. Extraordinary performance, 10.6% in spending, 9.3% in folding carton shipment. Again, if we look at the top left side chart, this will summarize the trend. We have acceleration in spending, purple line, white line falling in shipments. One that could explain this would be, one idea to explain this is the growth of liquid soap and detergent products. Those are packaged in plastic containers, not folding carton. So we have continued spending growth, but liquid soap and detergent taking share here. So long term, we're expecting down 2.1% contraction in folding carton shipments to soaps and detergent end users. And that will conclude the outlook. Take home points. Folding carton board demand is accelerating despite the contraction in the global economy and the recession that we're seeing. However, when we talk about folding carton board demand growth and performance, is different from one end use to another, one grade to another. For example, CRB demand is going to be fueled by the restocking of dry foods, cleaning supplies. SBS is facing fierce competition from European FBB and Asian ivory board. CUK is benefiting from the shift to at-home beverage consumption. Finally, we have rising forces in this industry. We have e-commerce and environmental awareness. E-commerce places downward pressure on CRB demand, whereas environmental awareness boosts paper packaging demand in the long run. Thank you very much. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Have you done anything about breaking in a second wave or a continuing ongoing wave of COVID into your forecast?
This forecast does not include a potential of second wave of COVID-19. But let's say if we were to include that, it will be basically another rise in the spending, another decline in production. So for that, if I want to clarify, if we go back to slide number 25. Yeah, in this slide, you see the red line, that is the spending on food, and the black line, that's the industrial production of processed food. What's happening here is, one part to explain this is the exports market being weakened. So processed food is not exported as much. If we have a second wave, we're probably going to be seeing the same thing again. Weak exports market for processed food, restocking at home, less shipments because we have less to export. So this would be one part of the story. Another part will be, let's say, in if we look at slide 29, down the road, that will be very similar effects. Same products will be benefiting. Food service will be suffering again, more losses in that segment. One maybe the takeout will put a floor to the fall in shipments into that segment of the market. But again, we will see the decline in that as well. In our forecast, we are baking, what is baked in the forecast is a rebound from 21 onward. But that's what could happen in a second wave.
Thank you. Beth, any questions or Q&A?
No, there are no questions in the Q&A. If you have a question and you'd like to raise your hand, I don't see any hands raised.
Okay, well, I have one more question, and then we're gonna, if there are no others, we'll end early. Your slides, if I understand them correctly, suggest there are some headwinds for recycled folding carton board because of e-commerce. Am I right? And if I'm right, can you maybe elaborate on why you think this is a trend, a long-term trend?
Yeah, so this is an interesting long-term trend we've been following for a while.
Do you want us to put a slide up here?
No,
slide?
No, this one is okay. Yeah, the idea here, if I want to start, let's say with a study that was published by my colleague Derek, and the study concluded in the e-commerce space that e-commerce or shopping online is 7 times more cardboard intensive than picking something at the store. So what this tells you is, I mean, that's what is happening in the cardboard side of the market when we have e-commerce. But let's say what is happening in the carton, folding carton and e-commerce. What we see now with e-commerce is folding carton being inside a big corrugated box. But the idea of a folding carton in a grocery store is to put the advertisement on it, put it on the shelves. That is what it's designed for. But with the e-commerce, we are expecting if that is taking more share of the demand and more stable share of the demand, more permanent share of the demand, we're expecting a specific or special stream for that kind of sale. So products will not even be packaged as if they are going to be put on a shelf. They are going to be packaged just to be sent in e-commerce channels. For that reason, what we're expecting to see is products being packaged in a corrugated box with the advertisements drawn in the box itself and the product inside directly, whether it's just some protection for the package. But the risk here for folding carton or recycled folding carton specifically is to be skipped altogether, having the corrugated box, because that will save some waste of paper. So that's what we're seeing. There's going to be a risk on the CRB folding carton. It could happen in different products. It could happen in cereals. It could happen in hardware. It could happen in toys, in specific products that are packaged in folding carton with the advertisements on it.
Very good. Very interesting. Anybody else have a question, Beth?
I don't see any hands raised, and there are no questions posted.
Okay, so Abdullah, stand by. We're just going to thank our sponsors and sign out. So I do want to again remember our friends from Koenig & Bauer, our friends from Clearwater, Bobst, Heidelberg and Komori, and Billerud, Korsnäs and Leary. Our association depends on in a great deal for financial stability on our sponsors and on our associate members. So thanks to all of them. Thanks to all of you for coming to this this presentation. And thanks, Abdullah. The one question I guess I have for you is about, we're going to be publishing a second two trends in 1 year. Do you have any takeaways from that, or when you think it'll be ready, or anything you may want to just give us a little teaser about?
Absolutely. So traditionally we publish an annual report that covers, I can't even count them, probably more than 12.
17.
17, okay. 17 end-use markets. This one is only covering the specific end-use markets that we thought had a very interesting reaction to the pandemic and the lockdown. Going forward, we're going to have the annual report, the natural annual report that we annually publish. That will include our latest forecast that we just published, and that will include all the 17 end uses. That one, I should say, should be ready in a few months, but we'll keep you posted on that.
All right. That's it, my friends. Well, Abdullah, thank you very much. This webinar is over. Abdullah, if you want to stay on for a minute just to caucus with our team, that would be great.